You've been told your labs are normal, that you just need to sleep more, move more, and drink less caffeine. But no one has actually explained to you why your energy won't budge, or offered you a real solution. Today I'm breaking down the most common causes of low energy that typically get missed in conventional checkups, and what your body is actually trying to tell you. This is not about quick fixes, it's about understanding your physiology so you can actually see some change. Hi, I'm Dr. Haley, a licensed naturopathic doctor helping people just like you reclaim their natural energy levels and feel better than ever before. I assume you're watching this video because you haven't been able to get answers on why your energy is chronically low and won't budge. I'm here to answer them. Let's dive in. Let me start by saying that low energy is a signal from your body, not a character flaw. There's nothing wrong with you personally, there's something going on under the surface. Low energy is one of the body's earliest signs that something deeper is out of balance. On a physiological level, we make energy from the food that we eat and the oxygen that we breathe. We turn these into a molecule called ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate. ATP is the body's universal energy currency, and it powers everything from muscle contractions and brain function to hormone health and detoxification. This process happens primarily in the mitochondria, which is often called the cell's powerhouse. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are broken down into smaller components that enter metabolic pathways like glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation, where electrons are transferred along the electron transport chain to generate ATP. To do this efficiently, the body requires adequate oxygen and blood flow, key nutrients like B vitamins, iron, magnesium, CoQ10, etc., healthy thyroid signaling to regulate metabolic rate, and balance blood sugar and nervous system tone. When any part of the system is disrupted, ATP production drops. The body experiences this as fatigue or low energy. Low energy is not a lack of motivation, it's a sign the energy producing mechanisms in our cells are under strain. There are typically 6 imbalances that I see in the body clinically with my patients that cause low energy, and we're going to cover those today in this video. The first cause I see for low energy is hypothyroidism. The thyroid is a master metabolic regulator. Physiologically, it works by producing the hormones T4 and T3, which act like metabolic volume knobs for nearly every cell in the body. The process starts in the brain in the hypothalamus, which releases TRH, which is thyroid releasing hormone. This signals the pituitary gland to release TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. TSH tells the thyroid to produce T4 and smaller amounts of T3. T4 is largely a storage version of our thyroid hormone, which has to get converted into T3 in the liver, the gut, and muscles. Once T3 enters a cell, it binds to thyroid receptors in the nucleus and upregulates genes involved in energy production. This increases mitochondrial activity, oxygen consumption, and ATP production. This is why thyroid hormones directly influence energy, as well as body temperature, heart rate, digestion, brain function, mood, and menstrual health. If thyroid signaling is impaired, cells receive a low energy signal even if your blood labs appear normal. The result of that is fatigue, cold intolerance, brain fog, constipation, hormone disruption, and a slowed metabolism, which can lead to weight gain. In short, the thyroid doesn't just control metabolism, it controls how alive and how energized your cells feel. So you might be thinking, what causes the thyroid to become imbalanced then? There's chronic stress and cortisol dysregulation, nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, gut dysfunction, poor sleep, and autoimmunity. All of these can impact your thyroid. This is why labs are so important. Even if your TSH appears normal, there could be a problem with your T4 to T3 conversion, so all of these labs need to be looked at when assessing the thyroid, not just TSH. So what if you already have hypothyroidism, your energy's been stable for a long time, but now you're starting to experience low energy? This actually just started happening with one of my patients. So She's had hypothyroidism for a long time. She, over the past year, has felt really fatigued, really tired. Her hair has been coming out, having a really hard time losing weight. And she went into her annual to get all of her labs done, check her box of being a good patient. And her MD ran TSH. TSH came back normal, and they did no follow-up labs. They didn't assess anything else. So the patient was frustrated, came to me, and told me the story. So now we're doing additional workup to figure out what's actually going on in her body, right? TSH is not an indicator that everything's okay if all of the symptoms the patient's presenting with say the opposite. So we have to trust the person, not the labs, and dig deeper. The key takeaway here is that medications can manage symptoms and suppress symptoms, but they don't always restore energy or fix the underlying issue. So don't give up if you feel like something's off. Definitely get a second opinion. The second cause that I see most often is low iron or low ferritin, especially in menstruating women. Iron is essential for life because it allows oxygen to be transported and used throughout our body. Physiologically, iron is a key component in hemoglobin. This is a protein that is rich in red blood cells that binds oxygen and delivers it to the tissues. Without adequate iron, oxygen delivery drops, and without oxygen, cells can't efficiently produce energy. Iron is also critical inside of mitochondria, where it helps power the electron transport chain during ATP production. Several enzymes involved in oxidative metabolism are iron dependent, meaning low iron directly impairs cellular energy production, even before anemia shows up on labs. And beyond energy, iron plays a huge role in brain function and neurotransmitter synthesis, thyroid hormone production and conversion, immune defense, muscle endurance and exercise tolerance, and temperature regulation. So we see a lot of the same trends with the thyroid and iron, if you're taking note. This is why low iron or low ferritin can present as fatigue, brain fog, anxiety, shortness of breath, cold intolerance, hair loss, palpitations, and poor exercise recovery, even when hemoglobin is technically normal. So let's talk about labs for a second. When we're looking for iron deficiency and anemia, you can have one or both. We look at several factors, right? We do an entire iron panel, we look at your CBC, and then also ferritin, which is your iron storage in your body. And there's a difference between optimal and standard conventional normal reference range. So you'll see here that these are two different interpretations of the same lab of a patient. On the top, it's the conventional interpretation, which has a reference range of 16 to 154 nanograms per milliliter. But when you look at this from a functional or naturopathic perspective, our optimal is actually 40 to 50 and above, not 16. So while this comes back in the normal range, when a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor looks at this, we're seeing this is low, this is suboptimal, it needs to be increased, especially if the patient is experiencing symptoms. Iron doesn't just prevent anemia, it determines how much oxygen your cells receive and how efficiently they turn that oxygen into energy. Let's say that your iron is low and you know it, but it's not going up as fast as you'd like it to, you can't figure out why it's not budging. There are a lot of reasons why your iron is low. So low iron might be causing you to feel fatigued, but what's causing the low iron? This could be low stomach acid, where you're not digesting and absorbing all of your minerals. This could be gut inflammation. It could be a heavy menstrual bleed every month. It could be a copper imbalance or a chronic infection. So just because we find the quote unquote root cause of the low energy, now we have to figure out what's causing the low iron. Don't stop at one metric, keep digging deeper until we actually get to the root of what's going on. Once you figure out what's causing the low iron, there are some really easy ways to optimize your levels and start feeling like yourself again. Our third common cause of low energy is nutrient deficiencies. So let's say you have low B12. That's helpful, but it's not the whole story, just like iron. Why is the B12 low? Is it intake, absorption, or utilization? Within the nutrient deficiency category here, we have B vitamins, magnesium, folate, vitamin D, and many more, but that's just to name a few. And common contributors to low nutrient levels include gut dysbiosis, low stomach acid, methylation issues, long-term stress, and certain medications like proton pump inhibitors and oral birth control. There are a lot of essential nutrients for energy production in the body. Just like iron, when we figure out why these nutrients are low through thorough intake, physical exam, optimizing labs, not just looking at standard values, and having a more targeted approach to what's going on within the body, not just the numbers on a lab report, then we can bring you back into an optimal state and keep you there. The fourth cause is toxic burden. The body uses enormous amounts of energy just to keep you safe. And in today's modern world, there's a lot the body is working against to try to keep us well. In naturopathic medicine, we look at this from the toxic bucket burden lens. So everything that you're being exposed to is cumulative and it adds to your load. So if you think about the toxic bucket, everything that you add in is adding to the burden of your body. Some examples are heavy metals, mold and mycotoxins, and environmental chemicals and endocrine disrupting chemicals. These all impact energy by suppressing mitochondrial function, disrupting thyroid function, depleting nutrients, and overloading the nervous system. So if you haven't noticed, a lot of these things are intertwined, right? There's not typically one cause, but many of them are contributing to the next. Unfortunately, most doctors don't run functional lab testing for environmental toxins like this unless there's been an acute exposure or you know for sure you touched mercury or consumed lead or whatever the case may be, right? Or unless you as the patient are really pushing for the testing. But in reality, these toxins could be the reason your energy, brain fog, and unusual symptoms persist. Thankfully, in my naturopathic training, we were trained to always look at environmental factors. There are so many natural ways to support the body's detoxification mechanisms, and it shouldn't be a last-ditch effort for you to get to the root of what's going on in your body if you are having environmental exposures. Remember, your fatigue is a protective response to your environment. Number 5 is gut dysfunction. We've already talked about this quite a bit with iron deficiency and nutrient deficiencies, but I don't want to leave out gut dysfunction as a whole separate cause. Gut dysfunction is one of the most overlooked root causes of low energy because the gut directly controls nutrient absorption, immune activation, hormone signaling, and mitochondrial function. When gut dysbiosis is present, digestion and nutrient absorption suffer. Even if you're eating well, the body may not be absorbing iron, B12, magnesium, amino acids, fat-soluble vitamins, all of which are required for ATP production. So low-grade microbial overgrowth can produce inflammatory byproducts that increases the body's energy demand. With leaky gut, the intestinal barrier becomes permeable. This allows bacterial fragments, like LPS, to enter circulation. This triggers chronic immune activation and inflammation, which diverts energy away from metabolism and toward defense. Inflammatory signaling also suppresses thyroid hormone conversion, which we want, and directly impairs mitochondrial function, further reducing cellular energy output. When there's dysfunction in the gut, it's impacting something called the gut-brain thyroid axis. Inflammation and poor microbial signaling disrupt neurotransmitter production, cortisol rhythms, and sleep quality, all of which strongly influence perceived energy and motivation. So, when the gut is inflamed or imbalanced, the body can't absorb fuel properly. It wastes energy managing inflammation and downshifts metabolism to protect itself. This is when we experience persistent fatigue. And just like environmental toxins and everything else we've talked about so far, functional gut tests aren't the standard of care offered in the conventional setting, but these tests are so easy to do and can give us a lot of insight into what's actually going on in your gut. And number 6, chronic infections. Chronic infections like EBV, Lyme, and other stealth pathogens can drive low energy because they place the body in a constant state of immune activation, which is extremely energy intensive. Physiologically, the immune system requires large amounts of ATP to produce inflammatory cytokines, activate white blood cells, and maintain surveillance. When an infection becomes chronic or reactivates, the body diverts energy away from growth, repair, metabolism, and moves it toward defense and survival. This alone can significantly impact available cellular energy. These infections also directly impair mitochondrial function. Inflammatory cytokines and microbial toxins interfere with the electron transport chain, reduce reducing ATP production efficiency, and some pathogens alter metabolism, pushing cells into a low energy state that is stress adapted. And to tie it all back to the very beginning, chronic infections can further disrupt the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, leading to abnormal cortisol levels that impair sleep, blood sugar, and thyroid hormone conversion. So reduced T4 to T3 is common, meaning cells receive a low metabolism signal even when the thyroid labs appear normal. All of this increased immune activation increases oxidative stress and depletes key nutrients like magnesium, B vitamins, iron, amino acids, which are all required for energy production and nervous system function, like we've talked about. So, chronic infections keep the body in survival mode. They suppress mitochondrial function, dysregulate hormones, and siphon nutrients. And as a result, we experience a persistent fatigue and other keynote symptoms that go along with these conditions. In addition to these 6 causes, we could also look at medications, mental health, and lifestyle factors, but for today we're going to keep it at these 6. When energy is low, we can be really hard on ourselves. We're told by doctors to just exercise more, eat better, sleep better, and stop drinking so much coffee. But is it really that easy? This isn't helpful whenever there's something else going on. So here's what you can do right now. Stop blaming yourself. Stop chasing surface level fixes and start asking better questions. Your body is not broken, it's communicating with you. Medical evaluation is really important for low energy. I never recommend someone try to fix their energy with supplements or hacks if they don't know what's going on inside of their body. You could waste a lot of time and money doing that. So now that you have the reasons for why low energy might be happening in your body, you need to figure out what's actually going on in your life. In my next video, I'm covering the daily mistakes you're probably making that are leading to low energy and how to fix them. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel so that you'll be notified when the video comes out. And remember, this is the difference between managing symptoms and finally restoring vitality.